Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you jumping on our Hook Up with Real Estate Masterclass this evening. We're super excited. We have a special guest, John Berlet, who's going to be talking about tax liens, and we'll get more on that in just a minute. I have a couple of housekeeping items to share with you, so let's get on that. So our mission is to provide aspiring and early real estate investors with exceptional training, exceptional education, skills training, and opportunities to invest in real estate, while simultaneously sharing strategies to avoid the costly mistakes like those my husband and I made early on in our real estate journey. And you can read about our journey and the rookie mistakes that we made, especially with partnerships, in a book called Real Women in Real Estate. There's a chapter that I wrote, and you'll uncover the one thing that has helped us through it all. Okay, I also want to mention that my husband Ken is a New Jersey realtor. He works for Weicker. He's licensed. He's also a veteran employee, not employee, but business, sorry. Okay, this is our masterclass calendar. I do want to mention one thing. We had a change for August. Typically, we're on the fourth Wednesday of every month, but this coming August, we're going to be on the third Wednesday, and also in November and December. Okay, we are powered by Legends Equity Group, and they're a fabulous group. They offer free training on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. So you can continue your training there. Just reach out to us for a link, and we'll be happy to share. And we invested in this multifamily here. And there are some other opportunities for investing. This is a 506c for accredited investors, so that's why we can talk about it here. But this is a self-storage unit in desirable Vero Beach, Florida, with a great number of value add opportunities. It is closing in 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're interested in investing and you fit the criteria of an accredited investor, please reach out to us as well. All right, there are 2 ways that you can stay connected to us. We have a YouTube channel, and within about a week, this recording will be added there. So it's youtube.com/the @hook up with real estate, all one word, and you can subscribe there. And then we have a Facebook page, group page at facebook.com/groups/hook up with real estate. Okay, Ken, would you please read the disclaimer?
Yes, I will. Give me 1 second here. Okay. We appreciate you attending the Hook Up with Real Estate Masterclass presented by co-hosts Kenneth and Donna Hook. The content we provide is strictly for educational purposes and not intended as legal, financial, or investment advice. Remember, participate at your own discretion. Real estate markets are subject to change and can be dynamic. Hook Up with Real Estate and its representatives will not be liable, for any outcomes resulting from the information provided. Seek professional advice before making any real estate investment decisions. By attending live, you consent to this event being recorded and understand that internet security is not absolute.
Thank you. And the quote of the day.
The greatest secrets are hidden in the most unlikely places. Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl, yeah.
Roald Dahl, excuse me.
And if you don't know who he is, he wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. All right. So now It is my great pleasure to introduce our very special guest, John Berlet, and I'm going to share his bio. So he's the founder of Core Tax Deeds LLC and president of Coastal Bend OZ, or Opportunity Zone Fund. John focuses on leveraging real estate and financial planning to safeguard and grow his clients' retirement assets. He's a certified financial fiduciary, and he has designation and expertise in financial advisory. John's approach centers around creating robust retirement income strategies and tax-efficient solutions. His team is dedicated to helping pre-retirees transition smoothly into their next phase of life. He takes great pride in guiding over 100 clients through the intricate process of paycheck replacement and capital preservation, utilizing cutting-edge tools like self-directed IRAs, Roth conversions, and cash balance pension plans, along with the Opportunity Zone investments to achieve financial aspirations. Please help me welcome John Berlet as he shares his wisdom and insights on Tax Deeds 101, the hidden gem of real estate. Thank you, John. I'm going to stop sharing.
Well, thank you, Donna. Hey, I appreciate the chance to visit with you tonight and your guest. Again, I'm John Berlet. I'm based in Rockport, Texas, which is about 30 miles north of Corpus Christi on the Coastal Bend region in southeast Texas. I do have an extensive background in financial planning. You mentioned my background. I had what's called a registered investment advisory firm in Austin, Texas for a little over 40 years. Ended up selling my large book of business in 2021, which resulted in a capital gain. So I ended up doing a deep dive in this new tax incentive called Opportunity Zones. You may or may not have heard about them. I call them, it's like if you had a 1031 exchange, if you're in real estate, you know what that is. And you had a Roth IRA and they got married, they had a little kid, they named him Oz, stand for Opportunity Zones. It's a huge tax incentive, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I have 30 years plus experience in buying property at tax sales for delinquent taxes. And basically, you know, if you don't pay your property taxes, they're going to sell your property at the public auction. And some states, about half the states call them tax liens, and about half of the states sell what's called tax deeds. My experience is in Texas primarily. Bought over 50 properties at tax sales. And Texas, by state statute, they have to hold the sale on the first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. And historically, you could only be in one county and 254 counties in Texas at 10 a.m. on the first Tuesday of the month. So just recently, what's got me real excited and back engaged in this space is their trend now to have the online auctions for the delinquent property tax sales. So in some states, it's an interest play where you're bidding on the lien, you're buying the lien based on some bid the interest up, some states bid the interest down. I'm not familiar with that world at all. I bought 2 tax liens in my life. They were in Colorado. I didn't end up owning the property, so it wasn't real exciting for me. I like to own the dirt. And in Texas, if you're the high bidder at these tax sales, then you get what's called a sheriff's deed. We are the new owner day one, once the deed's recorded, subject to the prior owner's right of redemption. And in Texas, again, there's 2 redemption periods. There's a 180-day redemption period if it's not a homestead, if it's not ag exempt or non mineral right property. then the former owner has to pay you what you paid plus 25% penalty in those first 6 months. So if they redeem the property a week later, a month later, 3 months later, they have to pay us what we paid plus a 25% penalty, which is equivalent to a 50% first year yield. If it is a homestead property, you got a question there?
I do. I got a few. Is it okay if I ask?
Up to you, Donna. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, okay, let's just
All right.
ask.
So I've been to at least one in California, and the properties normally sell for about what they are worth with regards to the comps. You answer my other question, so it's online, you don't have to be there in person. What's the likelihood of getting a good deal? Or most people bid it higher here so they can get a property like that. You know, even if they pay, you know, 10,000 over, it's still a good deal. Please, I'd like you to comment on those, and then I'll mute myself now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for the question. Yeah, I'm not familiar with California, but I've been to enough auctions in Texas to know that some people bid the prices up close to market value, or 70, 80 cents of the market value. And we don't compete in that space. We're interested in buying properties at 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. So we're in the tertiary markets. We don't bid in like Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, the major metros, where all the competition is driving up. And quite frankly, some of those buyers are not doing their diligence. And they may be a neighbor, they may know something about the property, and they're attached to it. You just never know why they're willing to pay so much. But our business model is strictly, we're buying at 20 to 30 cents on the dollar. And in some cases, we may go to 40 cents on the dollar. So I've been we're in at auctions where people are willing to pay more. We just get out. We know we set our buy price point way before the auction starts.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that a little? So how did you come to figure out your buy price point?
Okay. So I went to my first auction in August of 1993 in Travis County, Texas, Austin. And there was only two of us at this auction. One was the other guy, one was myself, and there was a sage real estate attorney by the name of Walter Winland. There was 13 properties being auctioned off. And they were all vacant land, no improved property, all vacant land. Some on the golf course. Anyway, this attorney, I'd read something in the newspaper, said Japanese economic woes reach around the world to Texas Hill Country. Said they were going to start selling these lots at the courthouse on the next Tuesday of August, 1993. So this attorney, when I get there, I'm young and dumb, don't know very much. He said, whenever I bid, you don't bid. And if you want to bid, I won't bid. I said, okay. Now, this is in Texas 30 years ago. I know today that's not allowed. That's called collusion. But back then, I just said, okay. And I bought 3 lots at the amount of the back taxes. So the opening bid is the amount of the delinquent taxes plus the penalties, plus there's a little fee for putting it in the newspaper, and then there's a sheriff's fee, because in Texas, the sheriffs conduct the sales. So I bought my 3 at opening bid. He bought 10 at opening bid, and really that's my start. Now, to answer your question regarding how we do our underwriting, I established in October this last year a new company called Tax Deed Investors. I recruited 4 of my long friends to come on the management side to do the field underwriting, go out and look at the properties, inspect the properties. And I go through all that due diligence process. A lot of it we're able to do online. It's like amazing what you can pull up now as far as comps and data. But we actually, my 4 field partner managing members of this managing entity go out and look at the property certainly if there's an improvement on it, we want to know if it burnt in the last few days and what condition it's in. That's the management company. Now, we put together something called a regulation crowdfunding, Reg CF offering, where we're raising capital from private investors that do not have to be accredited. You can invest and be part of this entity called Core Tax Deeds, which is managed by the entity I was just describing, and they're both LLCs, but the minimum is 2,000. And the underwriting procedure, the due diligence basically is we look at the court records, the title history, who's on the deed, who's been served in the lawsuit. There's a lawsuit in Texas. There's a lawsuit brought against the owner after 2 years of delinquent property taxes.
Oh, interesting.
And if you weren't aware of it, in the 8th month of being delinquent on your property taxes, a penalty kicks in and it goes up significantly. It can double in a matter of 3 years. Your taxes might have been 5,000, but the penalty is 7,000. So the opening bid at the tax sale is 12,000. Now, I may have gotten the weeds a little bit more than you wanted me to, Stefan,
That's
but
okay. It's okay. It's all interesting. So
Actually, I think it's great. I think Donna asked a really, really, really great question, and I'd like to hear more if it's okay with Donna and you.
great. Specifically to the underwriting
Well,
Yeah.
the whole,
offer.
well, the underwriting, how successful you've been, what, and more.
Okay. If you let me share my screen.
yeah, you should have
Donna?
sharing access.
Okay. Let me know if this pops up.
It does.
Okay.
I
So
don't think we'll be able to see the video, but it's okay.
okay. Yeah, I won't play the video. This is our landing portal under something called regulation crowdfunding. Before this fund, which was just established, we filed with the SEC in April of this year. We've taken our first investor dollar in May and bought our first properties in May. So we've bought 4 properties so far, all at less than 20 cents on the dollar, by the way. We're raising, I'll get into the offering a little bit here, maybe if you want. Let me scroll down. Okay, I'm gonna move this out of the way. So our minimum,
I thought of my questions. Can I ask them while you're doing this?
yep, shoot, go ahead.
All right. So forgive me. I don't know. I probably will fumble through this because I don't know how to ask it. But when I buy stocks, they have like quarterly reports and so on and so forth. So I can read to see how they did in that quarter compared to last quarter, year to date, so on and so forth. Do you publish? Do you have any such documents that shows a track record?
Yes, I do. I'll show you a little bit of that now, but keep in mind, this entity's brand new. We do have audited financials that are available right up here. You can access them. Right here. This is our landing page, of course. It's called invest.coretaxdeeds.com. And you'll see right here, our deck, our offering, the Form C. This is a very lengthy form required to file with the SEC, our audited financials, how to do a background check, bad actor, on all the principles. And then this is the subscription agreement. I'd encourage you to access this information, but we don't have a track record. This company's brand new. We've just bought our first 4 properties, 2 in May, 2 in June. Okay. But I have a long history, 30 plus years, and these are some of my successes as an individual. If you want to take a look at that page. I was advised by my securities attorney and all my counsel that not to put our biggest home runs on this example. So the biggest stories I can tell you about a property I bought for $1,100 and some change right next to the Catholic Church. I sold to the Catholic Church for $38,000. I bought a property for $50,000 that's not on here, sold it for $500,000. So I've had great success. I know this space very, very, very well. And the key is you make the money when you buy it right. Don't overpay at the auction like your first question. So many people bidding up the auction price. So I want to hit now on the difference between tax liens and tax deeds.
Wait, can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Please?
sir.
All right. So hypothetically, I say I send $2,000 on average, and I'm not holding you to this, but on average, how much would I make, and in what time frame, and what what percentage return? Best guess.
Let me answer it like this. If you put in 2,000, 10,000, by the way, we have some bonus shares. They're not shares, they're units. It's an LLC, so it's a membership. You become a Class A member in a limited liability corporation. So your liability is limited to the amount of money you invested. If you invest whatever, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000, number one, you could lose it all. Okay. There's
Right. It's a risk.
Yes. There's no guarantees. However, you do own a percentage of the real property that we buy, just like all the other Class A members. And we are offering a 12% pref on your investment, which means you get the first money out if and when we do have some profits. And typically, we got to hold the property 6 months, in most cases, before we sell it. We're going to buy it 30 cents on the dollar, sell it 70 cents on the dollar. We don't want to hold it long term. We want to buy and sell, buy low, sell low. And
No, sell high. Buy low, sell high. Oh, so not 100%, but yeah, right. I got it.
Wholesale. We want someone else. In fact, we're going to offer our Class A limited investors the first right on the sell. If they like the property for whatever reason, we're going to give them a little 5% off if they want to buy it before we put it on the market. But you get a 12% pref. The management company gets a 2% fee when we buy it at the auction. We get 2% during the holding period to manage it, and 2% when we sell it. So 6% in fees go to the management company. Then 12% goes to you as a Class A investor until you're made whole. We're going to split profits 60-40. 60% goes to you, 40% goes to the management company. Once you're made whole, you get your principal back. We're splitting 50-50 instead of 60-40.
And what's the average turnaround time? Best guess on average.
I'm telling people 18 months to 2 years before you should see any profits. Could happen quicker, may not happen at all. The worst thing can happen, we buy a property, has environmental problems, and or we put insurance right away. When we get the deed, when we're the high bidder, we get a deed, we put general liability on the property. A lot of times the property's in ill repair and we can't get coverage on the dwelling until we make some changes, but we certainly get the liability coverage on it day one.
Okay, so let's let John Stefan go through his presentation and then we'll get more questions. Okay.
So in New Jersey, for example, where Donna and Ken are, they're familiar a little bit with something called tax liens. So let me just go back to the basics. If you don't know it, your ad valorem property taxes is the highest priority lien on your property, higher than a mortgage. It makes sense why the mortgage companies require you to escrow your taxes and insurance, because they know they're inferior to the county, school, city, the ad valorem property tax. I held an ad valorem property tax consultant license and represented over 400 property owners at the appraisal district on getting their values, protest their values. So I know that side of the business really well also. So if in Texas, again, and these states, Georgia, Tennessee, I think that's Connecticut, and Hawaii are what's called redeemable tax deed states. You see this word down here, redeemable?
Mhm.
And I just participated this month in Oklahoma. I went to an auction in Oklahoma. It's not a redeemable, it's a deed state. And so we bought one property in Oklahoma June 10th, because Oklahoma only has sales once a year. Texas, we have sales every month, 254 counties, lots of inventory. And even more and more as values have crept up so high, and the tax amounts have become quite burdensome to many property owners. So in Texas, we get a deed, but it's subject to the prior owner's right of redemption. And I went over that a little bit earlier. If they are able to, and most likely out of 50 properties I bought, I only had 3 redeemed. And this company, this new company, Core Tax Deeds, we bought 4 properties, haven't had any redeemed yet, but we're only 2 months into it. So it's not likely. The properties we buy typically are ideally, they're not homesteaded. If it's a homestead, there's a 2-year right of redemption where the prior owner can come back and redeem it. They have to pay us what we paid plus any money we spent to repair the property, keep it in good maintenance. And if they redeem it in the 2nd year, it's a 50% penalty. So the chances are very low that the property gets redeemed. I bought one last month, and the people are deceased. The owners were deceased probably 4 years, and the grandchildren been living in the house, and pretty much squatters. They don't pay their taxes or anything. And when they moved out, the Sunday before the auction, May, it was a May 7th auction. I talked to the neighbors. I learned all this. They took everything, moved out. These grandchildren went to West Texas, and they even took the front door with them.
Wow.
So you run into all kind of scenarios. But we like the ones that are not homesteaded because they're only 180-day redemption period.
So some people might not know what homestead means. So can you just explain that briefly?
Well, oddly enough, in homestead in Texas means something different than it does in every other state.
Oh, really?
Homestead is you get an exemption on your taxes. If it's your primary residence, you get a little bit of a discount, quite a bit. In fact, your school taxes are frozen at age 65 if it's your homestead. So homestead properties, Texas, it has, like Louisiana, like your state, every state is different. Every state is so different. But in Texas, you can have a homestead and not even have a home on the property.
So it's just land?
One of my managing investor partners is a 40-year real estate attorney in Austin. His father was a dean of law at the University of Texas from 1947 to 1977. And so I have him on my team with skin in the game. He put in money, and we have 15 hours of his time to do a lot of the legal diligence. Okay, so let me get a little bit further along here. In our underwriting, first thing we do is go to the tax records. We find out if the homestead's filed. We find out if the address where they get their tax bill is different from the property that's being sold. It's a good sign that it's not a homestead. It's a good sign they don't occupy it. It's a good sign they're less attached to it for whatever reason. So I look what address they're getting their tax bill at, how many years they're delinquent. Then there's the assessed value. Then there's the market value. We look at that. We do a lot of underwriting way before the week before the auction. First of all, we only know about the property 3 to 4 weeks before the auction. So it's a short window. And believe it or not, 60, 70, 80% of the property gets paid in the last few days leading up to the auction. People are procrastinators, and so a lot of people get frustrated in my business in this space because they go out and look at properties and they do a lot of time, spend a lot of time research, doing their diligence, and never even have a chance. It gets paid it can pay the morning of the auction, and it gets pooled. So that's kind of a downside, but it's something I live with, and my team, we don't even go look at the property until like right now. Our auction is July 2nd, next month, first Tuesday, 10 a.m. We're just now, these next few days going to look at physically inspect the property in the field. If it's too far away to go, where two of my partners are in Austin, one is down here on the coast by me. We'll send check this out. This is funny. We'll send a Uber driver. We'll have them pick us up somewhere close by and send them to go pick us up at that place. And then when he gets there, we'll ask him to take a picture. We'll pay his fee and give him a $10 tip. Send us a picture. Be sure the house is, still there. So back to the risk. We can buy a pig in a poke, get upside down if you don't do your diligence, which happens a lot. Probably what you're seeing in California, people paying and they don't even know they haven't looked at what they're bidding on.
Yeah.
Michelle,
I
you've
had
been
been to a few tax liens, a tax lien in New Jersey years ago, and same thing. The lawyers were overbidding, and I didn't really understand why they would do that. So,
yeah, again, I'm very limited knowledge in the lien states,
okay.
the process procedures. I know Chicago, Michelle, I was at the National Tax Lien Association has a annual conference, and they're in March this year. I went to their conference. I'm a member of their association, by the way, a great group, National Tax Lien Association. But they were representing people from Chicago, say there's thousands and thousands of these properties in Cook County going at tax sales, and I know nothing about, but they have to buy a lien. Would you happen to know anything about that space, Michelle? You're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I do multifamily investing. So I'll be quite honest with you. I joined this call not knowing that it was going to be tax liens and deeds. Years ago, I looked into that, but I was kind of new. So I didn't really take it any further. But in Chicago, you got to watch, the different, areas, the south side versus north, east, west. I mean, those neighborhoods could be pretty rough. So I would imagine a lot of the tax liens are on areas where, there needs to, the neighborhoods might not be as appealing. And potentially not as, like, I'm not interested in going into an area where, my life can be taken. So,
Oh, I totally
See,
understand.
why not?
yeah, right. Go figure, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally with you on that. Absolutely. However,
So I'm sorry, do you do tax liens or deeds? And I do, yeah, I don't remember the difference, but you focus on tax deeds?
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a ownership. We're buying the dirt, and the
Mhm.
tax liens, you're just buying the position of the county, the school, the city. You're in their priority, and then you got to go through
Okay.
the foreclosure process after, depending on the state. Some year, I think Illinois is 3 years.
Mhm.
If you buy that lien, you get an interest. It's an interest play. Most of the people I met at the National Tax Lien Association are just interested in collecting the interest. There's only 3 to 5% of those properties ever get sold a deed. They all get
Okay.
redeemed. So it's a whole different
Okay.
scenario. And
Mhm.
we're seeing properties. We'll be bidding on a property. The opening bid is 62,000 on Tuesday.
Mhm.
A home as is all day long is worth 250. If we did some repairs, it's a 400. It's on the tax rolls at 409, but it ain't worth 409 in today's
Mhm.
condition. But it's got a pool. It's on a creek. It's a high-end neighborhood. I've seen properties. We'll be bidding on another property. It's on the water, so it runs a gamut. I'm not
Mhm.
opposed to those inner cities. In Corpus, we bought one in the Opportunity Zone, and we'll easy make a double, maybe 3x on that property. Think about it. Even in the lower income neighborhoods,
Mhm.
these values are gone nuts because and
Mhm.
the tax rates are also out of control. You know, the school spending, the county spending. And so it's really a great time in our current real estate cycle, in my opinion, to have some exposure in this space. But it's a good
Thank
point.
you.
A lot of, certainly the majority of property, it doesn't even, nobody even bids to open and bid on those Blythe communities. I'll see them, a good percentage of them in Texas anyway, if they're not worth, and many of them are not even worth the opening bid, they strike it off to the school district or the county. And then if you want it, you can negotiate directly with the taxing authority a much lower price because they want to get it back in productivity and, you know, get some revenue coming in on it. Multifamily, occasionally we'll bid on some of that. We want non-homestead, commercial, raw land, that sort of thing.
So what do you do with the land when you get it? So most of the ones you're buying now are houses, but if you happen to pick up land, what would you do with it?
Okay, we got 2 land, 2 houses, so 4 properties so far.
Okay.
We'll pay if there's a weed, they call them a weed lien. If there's overgrown grass, you know,
Mhm.
they call them weed liens here in Texas, where they do not get extinguished. The mortgage gets wiped out. Any mechanics lien, all those sort of things get extinguished, but the weed lien survives. So we'll find out even before the auction. That's part of our due diligence. How many weed liens or maybe there's a demolition lien, the city, you know, that's a priority is equal. It doesn't get extinguished. So we have to factor that in our, to answer your question, we mow the grass, we clean it up, make it look presentable, clean up the debris, whatever it takes to make it presentable.
And then you sell it.
Yep, at 70 cents on the dollar and
So-
65 cents on the dollar to our investor partners. They get first shot at it if they want it.
So I know you said that there's like a monthly tax lien in Texas, but what do? They list the properties in the newspaper, or how do you actually go about finding them?
There are websites. There's one called Tax Sale Resources. There's another one I would like even better called, I can't think of it right now. It's an odd name, but they gather the data from the courthouses. And in Texas, there's law firms. There's 3 big law firms involved with bringing the judgment for suit. It's a foreclosure. It's a judicial foreclosure. And they filed the lawsuit for this July. Gosh, where'd this year go?
Yeah, it's
July
really
2nd,
fast.
next month. The sale, those lawsuits are from August of last year. It takes time to go through the lawsuit litigation. So these lawsuits represent the taxing jurisdictions. They bring foreclosure, and then they hold the auction the first Tuesday, 10 a.m. in every county by state statute. And I learned about it from either Tax Sale Resources or Parcel Fair. That's the other name of the company, Parcel Fair, F-A-I-R. And there's probably a dozen more that you subscribe to, and you know they have the list. I can pop up and show you what that looks like if that'd be of any interest.
Sure, yeah, let's see.
Okay, so let me stop sharing this. Well, I'd like to come back to this page and go through the offering
Yeah,
doc.
that's fine, that's fine.
But for now, I'm going to pop up a site. There's Real Foreclosure.
Mm.
This one will be interesting. I got to log in. Give me just a second.
Okay, take your time.
So there's a company called Real Foreclosure.
And these are all subscription models, right? You pay for it.
Correct. I'm going to share my screen again now. Hopefully, yeah. Let me know if it comes up.
Yes, I see it. Newest, how do you say that?
That's Nueces County.
Nueces.
You can see I'm logged in. That's my bidder number. You got to click on this confirm. Let's see, confirm. This is how much I move money around. You have to have 5% on deposit, however much you want to bid. So if I'm gonna bid, $50,000, I gotta have $2,500 allocated to that county
Okay,
to bid up to that amount. I'm gonna change counties. I'm gonna go to this one. Let's see here. Aransas, here we go.
that's the one for this one.
This is Aransas County where I actually live.
Okay,
And this auction for July, there's 17 properties. Are y'all following me?
Mhm.
yes,
Yep.
17 properties are scheduled for 10 a.m. July 2nd. And I am interested in, of course, this parcel. It's on the water in a beautiful place. It's worth 300. Well, the judge value, according to when the judgment was rendered, is 301. Opening bid's 14,000. I'm not optimistic this property is going to be available, but right now it hasn't been withdrawn because I have
Okay.
this. You see this watch list?
yeah,
I've done the underwriting on all 17 properties, and there's only, well, I think there's 6 in my list, which is still quite long, still available. Actually, I'm not interested in this one anymore. I should take it off my watch list. Let me show you how I do that. So it's off my watch list.
okay,
I am interested in, I was having trouble loading here. Let me go back. I've already placed bid on this second one. You see my proxy bid, 15,000.
okay,
Oh, I placed it on that property. Now, there's a 1-minute clock. When you get outbid, once that auction starts at 10 a.m., somebody outbid me, most likely. I have a proxy bid in on this one. This is a $85,000, 2.5 acre property. Let me show you some of the underwriting.
okay,
So this lawsuit was a judgment on March of this year. That's a pretty recent.
okay,
And this the legal description, the street address. This portal actually quite a bit of information. You can go to Zillow, go to the appraisal district. This again gets into some of my underwriting. I'm not sure why we got into this subject, but I want to show you the counties I'll be bidding on. Nueces, 3 counties myself, right from home, because these are not live auctions 10 a.m. at the courthouse steps. 70% of the Texas auctions are in person still. You got to be at the courthouse step at 10 a.m. You got to have cashier's check on the spot. At these live auctions, I've got 24 hours to give the money. And I can be in, half a dozen or even a dozen counties in the same day.
Hmm.
Which is why I'm really excited about this going forward. Anything else anybody want to look at on this?
I got
okay,
one more
so,
question if I can ask.
mhm,
Sure.
All right. Before you said, in theory, I could make approximately $12,000 in 18 to 24 months. Is that 12% each year, or just for that one particular property? We're talking on average.
Let me clarify that. By the way, Stefan, what part of the country are you in? And can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am in Ventura County, just north of Los Angeles.
Okay.
I have a PhD clinical psychologist. I'm a certified life coach, and I investigated child abuse for 35 plus years, LA County, retired there, and basically I'm living off my pension and my investments.
Wonderful.
And I'm always appreciative that Donna always seems to find very interesting people to present. So I'm, and so I try to make every one of her Masterclass podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Let me clarify that 12% is the first money out. Think of it like this. If we have profits to distribute to the investors, the member owners, your owner, member owner of the core Tax Deeds LLC. Once we buy properties and sell them, once we have some exits, or if we stay in the property, we can rent, collect rents, we can have income during the redemption period. We own it. We can evict the tenants, we can incentivize them to stay in it if they're there, but we can have income before we sell. But most likely you need to count on 6 months. We sell the property, however long it takes to sell it, and then the first, with the exception of that 6% fees, 2% of the management company gets when we buy it. We pay $10,000. We get, what is that, a $200, whatever 2% is, goes to the management company.
Yeah,
of
200.
10,000.
200, right?
And then quarterly, we're going to take another 2% while we're holding the property. And then when we sell the property, that $10,000 buy, if we sell it at 30,000 or 40 or 50, we're going to take 2% of that. That's where the 6% goes. Then you get 12%. The next 12% of the deal profits go to the Class A member investors. After
And
that, the
typically, how many Class A members would there be?
well, right now we only have 9, but we're
So-
hoping to have hundreds. We want to raise
Okay, but-
5 billion.
But John, if you have, let's say we'll make it easy. If you have 10%, if you have 10 investors, that's 120%.
No, it's prorated. It's prorata depending on their membership units. Let me go back to this other page.
12% of what you invest, correct?
Yeah,
Is that
So
right?
if you,
Is Kenny
if
right?
you
And-
invest 10,000, you would get 12% of the 10,000, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Let me pop up this other page. We were on that home core tax deeds. Am I still sharing? I get so,
no, you stop sharing.
okay, screen share. Here we go. I'm gonna go up here. This, hopefully y'all have some familiarity with something called Reg CF. This is called crowdfunding. It's pretty new offering. It is a exemption under the SEC. We're filed with the Securities Exchange. And my other fund, I still have a fund prior to this called Coastal Bend Opportunity Zone Fund, which is only for accredited investors. You have to have a minimum of 50,000 and you must be accredited. And it's not buying tax deed properties. It's a whole different business. But this is an exemption that allows the average person to invest in private equity, have an interest, otherwise typically available only to high net worth accredited investor type people. Okay, so it's only been out about 12 years. It's highly regulated. We had to go through many months and many thousands of dollars in legal fees to file this. And here's how the profits are distributed. Let's see, there's a $10 value on a 1 unit. If you invest $2,000, you would get
200.
200 units ownership. If we hope to have hundreds and hundreds of investors. That's our goal. We want to raise 5 million. Right here, you see that? That's how much we're allowed to raise, and we can buy. We are happy to share with anybody upon request our pro forma that shows the IRR and all that. But if we raise 5 million, we're going to buy 17 million worth of property. What we're trying to get to this year is 1,200,000. At this point, we just went live in April. Received our first investor. There's 8 investors. We've raised 128,000. You can divide that by 8 and see how much each average person's put in. By the way, that number does not count any of the money my partners and I have put up, 135,000 to the membership. This is all from the Reg C offering, 8
It's
investors.
like 18,000.
Pardon me?
It's like 18,000 on average. The 8 investors invested about 18,000.
Somewhere in here, you'll see we have some incentives. Oh, it's not here, but in the offering document, if you come in at 15,000, we give you a bonus of 5% in your units. So instead of getting 15,000 divided by $10, 1,500 units, you get another 5%. So there's an incentive, and we've had one person come in at the 50,000. And yeah, and it's a 10% bonus if you come in at 50,000. So 5% at 15,000 and 10% bonus units at, and that's all in this disclosure. Here's where you're going to find all your questions. Hopefully answers to all your questions. This
Yeah,
Form C. And it's going to tell you all the reasons why you wouldn't want to do this deal.
I put the link to this in the chat, so if you want to copy it, anyone want to copy it and read through this on the
Now we-
side, that's fine.
we
Okay, so
are-
look, what's that?
Go ahead, Donna. I'm sorry.
Finish what you were gonna say.
I wanted to
We're
say that this offering is handled by a firm called Silicon Prairie. They're the broker dealer on this offering. All the money goes to Silicon Prairie initially. If you were to invest $10,000, you go here, let's say invest now. You have to set up a login and password. I'm gonna log. Anyway, to get all them documents, this was not supposed to pop up, whatever this is. You know,
You can close out of it.
they try to get you to go to these other sites whenever you click on something.
Just click on the X, yeah.
I can't, it's covered up by this leave meeting. Okay.
I think you can move that forward.
Where was I going? Remind, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So they're called an intermediary. The broker dealer, they take 5% on the first million we raise. And then it goes down the second million, 4%. And then the third million's 3%. So they're on a scale. And they're helping us with the marketing. Okay, here we go. When you set up a login, that's not right. There's no minimum investment of 500. I don't know why that's there. The minimum investment is 2,000. Oh, that was our target. We had to reach that goal. If we didn't reach this goal, then everybody gets refunded. That's a requirement of Reg CF. Anyway, this explains everything I just went over on the bonuses.
Okay.
And you can,
Yeah.
you fill out what amount you can pledge, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully this is real helpful and exciting to enough of you or any of you to dip your toes.
Yeah. All right, so now let's talk about, so you're at the auction and you're bidding and you may get the bid, you may not get the bid. So if you do get the bid, then then you get insurance, you said, then what else?
Okay, before I answer that, let me introduce and welcome Jason on this call. Jason is a tax lien investor, if I'm not mistaken, or tax deed. Will you introduce yourself, Jason? I haven't met Jason, but we talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago. You're on
Yeah.
mute. You're on mute.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, everybody. I'm in Southeast Oklahoma, and I was wanting to learn more about it and how, I guess, how the entire process works. I've been learning more about multifamily. I'm invested in some units out in Las Vegas, and I was looking at the residential, I guess, the opportunities there, and I was trying to learn more about that. I've never done any tax deeds or tax lien work.
Oh, I'm mistaken. I thought you did. I may have you mixed up. I told you I was going to Oakland. I went there. We bought one property in Durant.
Yes, yes.
June 10th. Were you on the call when I talked about it?
Yeah, I spoke with you about it, but
Okay.
I never did go down there.
Right, gotcha. Cool. Well, thanks for joining. Now, the question, you had Donna. Oh, Donna, I believe you're the one who introduced me to
I
Jason.
did, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's coming together. Okay, so your question, what we do, we get, it takes sometimes 3 weeks to get the recorded deed back from the courts, the sheriff's. But we get a receipt right away. We have to pay. Whatever we bid, you gotta pay or you get blacklisted. If you don't pay within that time, you can't bid again in that
Are you
county.
paying in full or?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
cash, no debt, no debt, by the way, in our portfolio. So could take up to 3 weeks to get the sheriff's deed. And we are the new owner immediately. If there's a tenant in there, we can, if we want them to stay, we can, strike a deal with them. We can evict them. We don't want to go through that process because of, what it is, how challenging and complex it can be, and the rights. It's the renter's rights. Actually, sometimes they're owners. There's all kind of scenarios. Here's the process. One we bought in Corpus. It was a homestead, but the lady moved out of the property 3 years ago across the street to live with her father, caretaker. And we're in the process of negotiating her right of redemption. We're going to offer her a little money so we don't have to wait up to 2 years on that property. So, there's, it's meeting the neighbors, it's getting inside. Prior to auction, typically you don't get to go inside if it's a structure to see the condition. Today, just today, I went inside this home. I was telling you, Donna, before we went on, $400,000 home. I got a hold of the owner, which is very rare. I rarely reach out to the owner, but this something said, give her a call. I found her, and she said she'll give me all her right, title, and interest for $20.
Wow.
I felt terrible. If we get a deal, she actually said, I'll take you in the house. And she hadn't been in, she moved out 4 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so I met her today. I went in the house. I did inspect the house. The opening bid $62,000. The market value for 2024 is $409,000. It's
Wow.
got some repairs, but there's every scenario is so different. It's kind of what I wanted to say at this point. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so you have to be prepared, in other words, to deal with some of the challenges of owners exiting their property, tenants exiting the property, destruction of property, neglected property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there's a reason in most cases, it's at a tax sale. There's something not right in that family. I mean, whatever it is, obviously. And so you're dealing with, and you're actually, the counties, the cities, the schools, their expenses go on. That's why their priority is so high, and the mortgage company's wiped out, extinguished. The only entity that's not extinguished is the IRS. And the IRS has 120 days if there is a federal lien. And very rarely they've been served in the lawsuit. They've been notified of, and so the ad valorem property tax, you check it out in your state. It's the highest priority lien on the property next to the IRS.
Okay, so you're raising capital from other people. So so that little bit of money that you have to put into the bank account of the county to show you have assets there, does that come from the raised capital, or does that come from the management team?
It comes from the capital for the entity that's buying, the owner. The property's all owned in the company you invest in, Core Tax Deeds. That's where we take title to the property in that entity. So the money, the deposit, how much we buy the property, all comes from that entity.
So now you acquire the property and then you have to do some kind of asset management until you sell it or refinance it or rent it.
No refinance.
So tell us a little bit about the asset management aspect of tax.
Good question. The bulk of my experience and even going forward is focused on non-homestead. We're not really looking to displace, owners that want to stay in their property, that are attached. That's not our audience. We're looking for commercial, raw land, second homes, properties that don't have the 2-year redemption period, number one, the longer hold. And that's where we're getting the 2% to manage that asset during that holding period. So whatever expenses, we put a roof on a property. We bought May 7th. We've already put a roof on it. We rebuilt the porch. The neighbor's tree had fallen 8 months ago before the auction and damaged the porch and this and that. So we've already put a new roof. And if it gets redeemed, I wouldn't have done all this repairs unless I felt like it most likely was not going to be redeemed, but I could be surprised. The former owner has to pay us the cost of the roof plus 25% penalty, the cost of the insurance, how much we paid in the taxes, any monies we've spent to keep it in good repair.
Okay.
So we're getting that 25% on all of our out-of-pocket.
So you would get be able to get back your money that you spent on any repairs anyway, plus a fee.
You can't upgrade or improve it. Well, you could, but you might not get the 25% penalty if the property got redeemed. So you wouldn't want to.
Okay, so you want to do.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
You said you could lose everything. How could an investor lose everything?
I can think of 3 off the top of my head. One, if we bought a site that had environmental contamination and toxic waste, we're all gonna 100% try to avoid doing that. But some things are, hidden, unavoidable. So say we get sued and we got all these other properties, that could have an effect on our profitability. And
Isn't that part of your due diligence though?
absolutely. But sometimes things don't get uncovered. I'll tell you another scenario. If I was crooked and absconded with all the money, I guess would be another scenario where you could lose. I've been vetted. I have a 30+ year financial fiduciary, no complaints. I managed $32 million in retirement accounts. And my clients were, like you mentioned earlier, Stephan, they're more interested in safety. I handled their retirement money. I'm an expert in Roth IRAs, Roth conversions, tax planning. Retirement income planning is really my specialty at the end of the day. So you need to vet me, number one, check me out with every possible resource you can come up with, and be sure you're dealing with an honest, reputable person. How else could you lose money? Oh, if we got sued, I think that would be covered in the first one. We're kind of splitting that risk out amongst all the properties. We're hoping to buy dozens and dozens this year. So that risk is you have ownership interest in each property, just like the company. You own a percentage of core tax deeds. Again, we had to file a what's it called? I showed you earlier, some kind of audited financials.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
That's all on our website. So if you're halfway interested in getting involved, definitely do your diligence. Be sure you know who you're doing business with.
Yeah, and that's a valued point because that's how we got caught out early on in our real estate journey. Just being too eager to invest in real estate and not vetting out our partners as well as we should have.
Yep. I'm totally a safe money guy. That's my background. I sold a company what's called fixed indexed annuities, where your principal is protected. You get participating upside. It's issued by insurance companies. That's the space I know really, really, really well. And I have a passion for real estate and have had lots of successes with tax deed properties in Texas in particular, specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like you're in the right business then.
I got another question if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So hypothetically, not hype, yeah, hypothetically, you've already put an offer in on the property, $300,000 or $400,000 property. Is there right of redemption on that property?
You mean the proxy bid I showed you on that website?
Yes.
Yeah, let me come back to that. I wanted to tell you earlier, Donna, that website is not the county's website. That's a private industry. They get $300, by the way, on every sale. But
Oh,
back to you, I just remembered that real auction where you register, you put up a deposit. It's not part of the taxing jurisdiction. It's not a government website.
okay. It's a
Back to
private
your
website.
question. That deposit we put up there, you have to have on deposit equal to 5% of the maximum you're gonna bid. So I put a bid on that house, 15,000, I think it was. I don't
Yep.
remember.
Yeah, it was 15,000.
Okay. I must have at least 5% allocated to that county's auction page. When that auction goes off at 10 a.m., and if I'm the high bidder at 15,000 and I don't have 5% on deposit there, my bid is void. I don't get it. The
So
property.
put your money where your mouth is, basically, right?
That's one way of saying it. That's the way they say it in Jersey.
Yeah, yep. Put
Okay.
your money where your mouth is.
So that I have to manage that. I'm bidding next Tuesday in 3 or 4 counties online. Plus, we have my partners who are going to be at live auctions in 2 counties. And so I need to juggle that deposit amongst counties. Whenever I see we're not the high bidder on one property, I move that money to another county. And so I know what order. Some of these counties have 77 properties.
Wow.
The property I might be interested in may not go off until the 23rd on the list. And so
Gotcha.
I have to manage, be sure we have enough to bid what we want to bid. And I just added some more money because we got our first $90,000 in on this 128,000 raise. It took a while. The money was been over there with this platform I told you, probably 3 weeks, and probably half of those 8 investors I have so far are using their retirement money. People I know that had to set up a third-party custodian, a self-directed IRA, and that takes time, get all the paperwork
Yeah,
done.
we had those.
By the way, I'm speaking tomorrow in Dallas at the Quest Trust
Oh. what's
annual expo. I'll have a 15-minute speech, and then I'm sponsoring. I'll have a booth there, and I
That's
love that
awesome.
company. They're one of my favorite third-party custodians.
Yeah, they were highly recommended to me as well.
Did I
Okay,
answer
so
that?
at what point can you actually, so you basically have to wait maybe 2 years before you can make any.
You should plan on 18 months. I don't want anybody to expect any return. I'm going to do my best, and I'm confident we will. But I think if you're not comfortable leaving that money tied up for 18 months, you shouldn't get in. You shouldn't participate.
Okay. So the question, the homestead, they can redeem them for 2 years, but the non-homestead, could you repeat how long
6 months, 180 days. And it's not just the non-homestead, it's ag exempt. If it's ranch land, we're bidding on, I was up there in Oklahoma, I bid on 9 acres. I got really close. I got out at 35,000, went for 42, worth 200,000. So I like acreage. They have a 2-year, if it has an agriculture exemption on it, or if it's a mineral rights, they have a 2-year right of redemption in Texas, just like the homestead.
Okay, so then do you, as the new owner, let's say, do you actually have to hold it for 2 years, or can you sell it before the 2 years?
Very good question. You can sell it. You can't convey, you'll have a hard time getting a title policy. You're not going to get 70 cents on the dollar. I could sell those properties we bought last month, this month, I could sell them right now today. But nobody's going to give me 70 cents on the dollar unless I can give them a title policy.
Okay,
Can't get a title policy till that redemption period's expired.
okay,
Yeah, because no clear title, correct?
Well, you can go through the process to quiet the title.
Yeah.
And we will do that. In fact, I told you I'm negotiating with a lady right now to buy her interest before the auction.
Yeah.
So we're the new owner, Donna, to answer your question. I can sell it, but who's going to pay me a whole lot more unless they have some room in it and they can ride out the 6 months till, actually in Texas, we can't get a title insurance until 12 months.
oh, really? Okay,
So we can sell it again. We have the right, we own it, but the new buyer is going to be subject to the remainder of that redemption period.
mm,
Therefore, it's going to limit how much they're going to want to pay, and no title insurance company is going to issue a title policy. And here's why. Heirs. There's such a thing that people can come out of the woodwork and claim they were never served notice in the lawsuit. So they extend this 12-month period. There's case histories that says someone can, but they got to pay you what you pay plus 25% penalty if that scenario happens. But the title companies are very hesitant, to issue policies, and they won't in the first 12 months.
okay,
Unless you quiet the title, spend some money, and then it's still questionable whether you can get a title policy in the first 12 months.
all right. So then during that time, you're only making minimum necessary repairs. So the house, in a way, could potentially deteriorate even further, though, right?
It could if you don't maintain it.
So
But
you're,
but you, as far as managing it, you do maintain it, correct?
Yeah, we're putting tarps on a property July 4th, the 4th of July. We're putting on tarps on a property we bought, and we're doing a demo. I have a what they call roll off. It's full of debris. We want to see what we're going to inspect it. And if I've got 6 people showing up, if we have time after we get all the household garbage, most likely out of the house, we're going to start tearing out sheetrock and pulling some ceilings down to do some inspection before we spend a whole lot more money. We might demo it.
mm. Okay, so then 18 months goes by and you're ready to sell. You've done basic repair. How are you actually able to sell it for 70 cents on the dollar if you haven't totally, put money into it? Or is that point, do you do more repair?
Because we're buying it right. Number one, remember, we're paying 20 to maximum 30 cents on the dollar current value.
Uh-huh,
So we have built-in equity day one, unless we make a mistake.
okay,
And we try our best. We all have skin in the game. We're not bidding our money and your money unless we do our diligence. But
Yeah, because technically, when you go buy them, they don't let you do like a walkthrough like you would if you're buying it as a person. Like, if you go to a realtor, you're gonna have a walkthrough, you're gonna have home inspection. You buying it tax, is basically as is. You don't get to inspect it, correct?
That's correct. However, just today I did get to go inspect one.
Yeah,
And-
well, the
Yeah,
woman allowed you to do
circumstantial.
that, correct?
But generally,
Yeah,
Generally speaking,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, generally speaking, all the disclaimers at the auction, you're buying it as is, no warranty. You know, it's full of disclosure language.
Yeah,
You're buying whatever interest the taxing authorities had in that property. That's all you're doing. You're buying their interest.
yeah.
Okay. So, we're gonna run out of time shortly, but just talk about your capital raising strategy that you're using now beside the Reg CF. Like, how are you getting the word out about your property or your company?
Okay, so we've hired a marketing firm called Pre-Hype IPO.
Rehype IPO, wow.
Pre-Hype IPO, which we eventually may go to an IPO on this. You know, if we
Oh.
have kind of success, the next step is going from Reg CF to IPO, which we'd all have, you know, some big home runs in that scenario. They're a Reg crowdfunding marketing company. So we hired them. Go ahead.
Like with between a 506B and a C, there's rules about what you can advertise and what you can't advertise. So what about a Reg CF? Can you advertise for these properties?
You absolutely sure can.
Okay,
And with our particular agreement with the Silicon Prairie portal, we have a secondary market available like your public exchanges. Stefan, you mentioned, you know, I think you mentioned stocks and S&P or something like that. This particular
right?
intermediary is going to have a secondary market that our investors are going to have access to if they want to do an exit before we have profits. After 12 months, not in the first 12 months, but after 12 months. And you can read about that on that portal. So I'm sorry, I forgot your question, your last question, Donna.
no, it was about, you know, the regulations and advertising, and you said you hired a marketing company.
Oh, pre-hype
And-
IP. And we're in phase 3 with them. We hired them in December. We went through, they have something called Test the Waters, where people could make pledges, but they weren't allowed to invest until we filed our Form C, which is like a subscription agreement, or PPM.
Okay,
And that was filed in April. So nobody could, even if they pledged, you know, my friends and family, they couldn't even put money in until we filed that form. Just like Reg 506C, we can advertise. We're about to do a Google ad campaign.
oh, wow.
And there's a bunch of people in there, gurus, that are selling courses on tax deeds and tax liens.
Mhm.
Ted Thomas, if you look that guy up, Ted Thomas, he's got 56,000 subscribers.
Okay,
And there's other people, they're selling a course and they'll come to your city, their road shows, they give you a free 2-hour introduction, and they convince you to buy a weekend like the old Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
yeah, of course.
And
Been
pay-
there, done that.
Yeah. So that's going on. We're going to piggyback somehow. I'm right in the way in the process of figuring out how on Google Ads and YouTube we can retarget those people who have some knowledge about tax deeds, tax liens, and they get to doing the work. And it's hard work. It's not easy. Not easy
Yeah.
like classes explain it all. And for this reason, many of the properties get pulled before the auction. So you spend your time spinning your wheels, looking at property, may not, remember that one I showed you? I'm not counting on it being there,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I went and looked at it. I know what it is. If it's there, we're gonna jump on it. But people get, you know, they understand the laws when they go to these classes and buy the courses, but they don't have the time. They're more, what we're gonna try to attract is the passive investors who don't want to go in the neighborhoods like, what was the lady earlier? Is she still on?
No, Michelle, she had to leave.
She clearly don't want to go to South Chicago looking at, dangerous neighborhoods.
No, definitely don't.
So there's that person that has the knowledge and understands the upside, they're educated. We're going to start sending them messages on Google Ads, I think.
All right, that's cool. And then, does anyone, so originally you and your team put in money up front to get all the paperwork. So you're pretty much what they consider the key principles, I imagine. 'Cause
What
you're-
kind of principle?
Key principles, in a multifamily, it's somebody who has to sign on the loan. They have to have some experience.
Yeah, I own 30%. I'm sorry, I own 66% of the management entity. The other partners who put in a minimum 25,000 each, 4 people that I've known over 25 years.
Okay,
They put in minimum 25, some more. I put in 40,000 to cover the startup and buy our first few properties. And what was the part about that? We
so
have
you're not taking any loans out, so you don't really need a key principal. Everything is paid in cash based on the funds that you collect, right?
correct. We have no debt. We don't plan on taking on debt anytime in the near future. That's all spelled out in our offering documents.
All right, so let's end it like this. Tell us some of your lessons learned. What did you learn the hard way? What did you wish you knew?
Lessons learned. Oh gosh, I don't know. Specifically to real estate.
Yeah,
So I bought an apartment complex in Bridge City, Texas. It's in a county called Orange County, Texas. Nothing like Orange County, California. It's like the armpit of Texas.
oh no.
Orange County, it's on the state line of Louisiana and Texas. So in 2008, I and some of my friends, investors, bought a 48-unit apartment complex 45 days before something called Hurricane Ike. IKE. Anybody remember hearing about Hurricane Ike?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
45 days after we closed, the whole city's underwater. Bridge City, it's near Port Arthur, it's Orange County, Beaumont area. And so I learned we were fully insured. We bought it to rehab anyway, and fully insured. It was really a blessing in disguise. But I got a bath real quick in how to manage that kind of insurance claim.
Oh,
And so that was a huge lesson in my life. I think buying property at tax sales in my IRA in 1993, I set up a self-directed IRA. I'm considered a pioneer in that space. Roth IRA is the very best gift Congress has ever given any of us. I'm 100% fired up and tell everybody, if you don't have one, shame on you.
we have one. Not
Good.
managing it too well, but we have one.
Well, take a little more risk with your Roth than you would with your other money,
Yeah,
because the upside, and this is a good example here. The upside, tax planning is, you guys in California, God bless you. Tax planning. I have one client in California. He's in Vista. He's an optometrist, and he pays like 50 every year, 50 some percent of his income goes in taxes.
yeah, he needs real estate to be able to write it off.
That's what I was thinking. He needs to either be a real estate professional or marry one,
That's right.
or
I have a
get a team.
couple questions.
Go ahead, Ken.
Okay,
Now you were referring to homestead. So basically a homestead is just where there's a house, correct?
Wrong. You would think
Okay.
that. You'd think
Okay.
that homestead, but a person can claim some acreage, unimproved land in Texas can be claimed as your homestead.
Okay, so you try to stay away from those, you said.
Uh,
Now, Did you go over how you actually find the properties at the 20 to 40% on the dollar?
He's paid services. Remember he was showing the
So
website.
they send them to you, and how do you vet them without wasting a lot of time on them? You just wait, as you said, to get to the closer to the
Okay. So the
redeeming?
sheriff's department in Texas again
Mhm.
required to post the property for sale in the newspaper so many days before the auction.
Okay,
And they put it on the courthouse steps. And we're really behind the times as far as online auctions. More than 70% of the counties in Texas are still doing the live 10 a.m. at the courthouse steps tax sales.
mhm,
And the services we subscribe to, I've mentioned tax sale resources,
yeah, mhm,
parcel fair. They gather that data from the counties
okay,
and compile it, and we subscribe and we get access to it as soon as it's usually 3 weeks before the auction, we know. And then I watch the list. I could pop up if you want to take some time now and look, show you another law firm's portal, and every day they'll put on their withdrawn. They'll tell you which property is no longer available. Do you want to take time to look at that, Donna?
We can in just a minute. Like I just want to wrap this call up. Let me just see if anybody has any questions, any other questions.
I do. Going back to the house for 300,000 or 400,000, is it a right of redemption property?
If you're, which
Mr. Berlet?
there's two this month, July, I'm looking at. One is the lady I met today. Okay.
Hmm.
And the other one is the one on the water. I don't know which
Right.
one you're asking about.
The one on the water.
It is Homestead, yes.
So wait,
So
is
then
that
he
right of
would have to
redemption?
hold the property for 2 years before
You
he
have to
could
hold the
sell it.
property for 2 years.
You should plan on it, but you don't have to. You can sell it the
Oh.
next day.
Okay.
Right, but you have to have the title um cured.
You don't have to. If some willing buyer is willing to buy what you got without a title, and this happens, I could flip that house and make a little bit of money in weeks, even if there's a homestead.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with the lady, how much money are you likely to make on that property?
Oh my gosh, we still got some diligence to do. There's some weird stuff going on with there was a tax lien lender that loaned money in 2020 that I just got all the title, the tax records, and my lawyer's looking it all over, and we're putting an offer in front of her at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, just a 2-page agreement to buy her interest. And she told me today she'd give me all her ownership interest for $20. And I felt terrible. I said, oh no, we give you in the thousands. And so what we're going to offer her is $1,000 right up front. We're going to risk we could lose it, and give us some time. We got to make a deal by Monday with this lady, because the auction's Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. and that taxes are $62,000. It's not a homestead. She moved out of it 4 years ago, and it was an owner finance. It's really a little bit complicated. And we're thinking maybe we cut a deal, we buy her interest, and we still go to auction, let it go to auction. This is a whole new avenue. People bid it up to 200,000. We got her interest I'm gonna give her 4,000 on the back end once we do it. And there's something called surplus. Have you ever heard of overage at tax sales?
Well, I've heard of it in terms of storage wars.
Surplus?
Yeah, so if they buy a storage unit and they make more money than is owed, the ex-owner of the storage unit gets a reimbursement.
Same principle. So this lady owes 62,000. She bought the house. It's strange. I'm telling you, owner finance. She got a deed. I got a copy of general warranty deed, a deed of trust, something weird going on. But she never made a payment. And
Yeah.
she bought it in 2017. never made a payment and moved out in 2020, never hears anything from the seller. And so here's where I was going with this. If we strike a deal with her and we buy and we let people bid it up, I'm thinking people are going to bid the 180, 200,000. We end up get the difference, the surplus from what was owed to 65, let's say, and the $180, we make a quick 120 grand. If it plays out that way, it may not, probably won't.
Yeah.
I don't
Right,
know
and
why.
before we go on any questions, I am gonna stop the recording. We can take the other questions that you want from here. But just to wrap this up, thank you so much, John. It's
Hey,
been a
I love
pleasure.
talking about this subject. As you can tell,
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it.
And the replay will be available on YouTube in about a week. All right, I'm gonna stop the